Imagine standing in the spirituality and self-help aisle of a massive brick-and-mortar bookstore.
Oh, yeah. I know exactly the kind of place.
Right. You know the vibe. The floors have that faint squeak when you walk on them. The
Mhm.
air smells like, I don't know, espresso and old paper.
Yeah, that very specific bookstore smell.
Exactly. And the shelves are just towering over you.
Yeah.
And you look to your left, and there are these thick, ancient Vedic texts, with the gold leaf lettering.
Right. Heavy stuff.
Yeah, very heavy. And then you look to your right, and it's like, boom, neon-colored, modern biohacking guides.
The ones promising to, like, optimize your dopamine in 30 days.
Exactly. And just down the aisle, you've got books on healing crystals and communicating with angels right next to dense, peer-reviewed clinical psychology
It's all
manuals.
just thrown together.
It is. The sections just bleed into each other seamlessly. Like Buddhism bleeds into Stoicism, and then Stoicism bleeds into productivity.
And productivity bleeds right into mystical manifestation.
Yes. And if you stand there long enough, just sort of soaking in the sheer overwhelming volume of it all, this very specific feeling starts to creep in.
Which is,
Genuine paralysis. You just freeze.
oh, completely.
Hmm.
Because it's the ultimate paradox of abundance.
Right.
I mean, we're navigating this sort of supermarket of the soul, right?
Yeah.
And the sheer number of aisles is creating this profound existential bottleneck.
Existential bottleneck. I like that.
Well, think about the historical context of what you're describing in that bookstore. Let's rewind the clock a bit.
Okay.
Look at the life of an average human being, say, I don't know, a peasant living in an agrarian village in the 14th century.
Right. Okay.
What was their menu of spiritual options?
Pretty limited, I'd imagine.
Entirely geographically and culturally locked.
Yeah.
I mean, they had the local parish church and maybe those stained glass windows that served as their only visual media.
Basically their version of a screen.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And the theology was just whatever was handed down to the local priest.
Right.
And perhaps, if they lived near a major trade route, they might hear a fleeting rumor of a desert mystic or a monk living in a cave 100 miles away.
But that was it.
That was the entirety of their spiritual ecosystem.
So their choices were essentially, participate or be ostracized. There was no browsing.
None. The menu was a set meal. You ate what you were served.
Right.
But for you, for us, for anyone listening to this deep dive right now holding a smartphone, the architecture of access has just completely inverted.
We have
We
everything.
have the entirety of human consciousness, every sacred text, every esoteric practice, every translated manuscript. It's all sitting in our pockets.
It's insane when you really think about it.
It is. We have thousands of isolated dots of wisdom.
Yeah.
But what we are fundamentally lacking, what causes that paralysis you felt in the bookstore, are the lines to connect them.
The lines, yeah.
Because humans are taxonomous by nature.
Mm-hmm.
Our brains evolved to categorize our environment just to survive.
We need to put things in boxes.
We crave structure. We desperately want to know our exact coordinates on the map. Like, am I just starting out? Am I halfway up the mountain?
Or am I just walking in circles in the parking lot?
Exactly.
We want the syllabus.
Well,
It's
yeah.
that same anxiety you feel when you start a new job or, I don't know, take a new class. You just want to know if you're failing miserably or if you're on the right track.
Right.
And we're all out here pushing our little metaphorical shopping carts through this spiritual supermarket, right? Grabbing a meditation app here.
A yoga retreat there.
Yeah, maybe a cool breathing technique we saw on social media, and we're just throwing it all into the basket.
Hoping for the best.
Desperately hoping we're cooking up a nutritious meal. But deep down, there's this gnawing, terrifying question of what if we're just combining random ingredients that are going to literally explode in the oven?
Or even more subtly, what if the ingredients fundamentally cancel each other out?
Oh, wow. What do you mean by that?
Well, what if you take a practice designed to entirely dissolve the ego, right, from an Eastern tradition, and you mix it with a modern psychological practice designed to strengthen your personal boundaries and build up the ego?
Oh, man. You're just fighting yourself.
Exactly. Without a map, you are blindly experimenting on your own nervous system.
Okay, let's unpack this because that brings us directly to the mission of today's deep dive.
Yes, it does.
We have a stack of source material sitting right in front of us that offers a highly specific, I would even say borderline provocative antidote to that exact paralysis.
Highly provocative, yeah.
It's a 4-level map of spiritual evolution,
Right.
and it's provided by a practitioner and teacher who goes by the moniker the Man from Oz.
Right.
And what I love is that he does not offer some vague, comforting, just follow your intuition and everything will be fine philosophy.
Yeah, not at all.
He lays out a strict linear progression, 4 distinct levels. It's presented not as a poetic metaphor, but as a hard diagnostic taxonomy of human spiritual development.
The linearity of it is what makes it so striking.
Yeah.
Because in the modern, highly democratized wellness space, we are constantly told that the journey is a circle, right? Or a spiral.
Or an individualized chaotic dance.
Exactly. So to present it as a ladder, a straight, uncompromising vertical climb, is almost jarring to modern sensibilities.
It's very old school.
It is. It suggests a hierarchy of states. It essentially says that there is, in fact, an up and a down.
Which people don't like to hear.
They hate it. But it moves from the very familiar territory of gathering intellectual knowledge all the way into a state of consciousness that fundamentally breaks the structural bounds of human language.
But the part of this map that truly hooked me, like, the absolute twist in the narrative isn't just how high the ladder goes. It's
Right.
what happens after you hit the top. Because the common trope is that you reach enlightenment and you just vanish into the ether.
Yeah, or you just sit blissfully under a tree for the rest of your life, ignoring your unread emails.
Exactly. But this framework insists that the ultimate goal of losing yourself is to actually return to the ground with a completely upgraded operating system.
A highly functional return to daily life.
Yes. It's the difference between escaping the simulation and actually mastering the simulation.
That's a great way to put it.
But of course, to understand the validity of that claim, we have to scrutinize the source. Because the concept of authority in the spiritual domain is notoriously slippery.
Oh, incredibly slippery.
Yeah.
I mean, in the hard sciences, we look for peer-reviewed studies, right?
Yeah.
Double-blind trials, scientific consensus.
Tangible proof.
But in this realm, the primary currencies of authority are time and state.
Time and state. Okay.
If someone is handing you a highly rigid map of human consciousness, claiming to know the exact path to the summit, the most vital diagnostic question you must ask is, have you actually lived on that mountain, or did you just read a pamphlet about it in the gift shop?
Right. If I'm buying a travel guide to Paris, I want the author to know the back alleys, the local bakeries, the smell of the subway. I don't want a guide written by someone who watched a travel vlog and decided to monetize it.
Yeah, that happens way too often.
Way too often. So let's vet the cartographer here. Because the source material provides a resume for the man from Oz that is, quite frankly, statistically anomalous.
It really is.
We're looking at a claim of nearly 50 years of advanced yoga and meditation practice. 50 uninterrupted years.
Let's just contextualize what 50 years actually means for the human nervous system.
Please do.
Think about the cultural, technological, and social tectonic plates that have shifted over half a century.
I mean, the world is unrecognizable compared to 50 years ago.
Right. So to maintain a rigorous internal esoteric practice through all of those external fluctuations requires a psychological anchor that most people simply cannot comprehend.
He's been doing this since before the internet.
Exactly. He has likely witnessed every single spiritual fad rise and inevitably crash.
Oh, for sure.
He's seen the guru scandals, the commercialization of mindfulness, the rise of what I like to call the retreat industrial complex.
The retreat industrial complex, that's brilliant.
Well, it's true.
Yeah.
And to survive that timeline without abandoning the practice implies a density of experiential data that just cannot be simulated.
And out of those 50 years, he's been teaching for 46 of them, with students spread across over 100 countries.
Over 100 countries.
So the sample size of his observation isn't just his own brain, it's thousands of other nervous systems across completely different cultures.
Which is vital for building an accurate map.
But the metric that really functions as a massive market signal for me personally is his pricing model.
Oh, yes.
Because the text explicitly highlights that he has taught this core material totally free for nearly 5 decades.
Which is huge. The economic structure of spiritual teaching is incredibly revealing.
How so?
Well, whenever you introduce a massive financial barrier, say, I don't know, a $10,000 exclusive weekend intensive to unlock your quantum potential.
Right, in Costa Rica or something.
Exactly. You immediately introduce a severe conflict of interest.
Because they have to keep you paying.
Yes. You have to wonder, is the teacher holding back the most effective techniques to ensure you return for the next paid tier?
Oh, man. The spiritual subscription model.
Right. Or is the environment engineered to produce a temporary manufactured emotional high just so you write a positive review and get your friends to sign up?
You start optimizing for customer retention rather than actual enlightenment.
Precisely the danger. When the financial transaction is removed entirely, the incentive structure is purified.
It changes the whole dynamic.
It frames the transmission of knowledge not as a luxury consumer product, but as a fundamental human duty. It suggests the motivation is rooted in the very states of consciousness he's trying to teach.
States characterized by a lack of personal, ego-driven grasping.
Exactly.
That definitely makes me lean in and drop my guard a bit, you know? Like, if you aren't trying to upsell me into a mastermind group, I am much more willing to listen to your wilder claims.
And the claims do get wild incredibly fast.
They really do. Let's look at the timeline of his own internal development. The text states he achieved the samadhi experience 38 years ago.
Right.
Now, before we drop the exact age at which this happened, we need to clearly define what samadhi actually is. Because it's a word that gets tossed around a lot in yoga studios right alongside namaste and good vibes.
Yeah, it's a critical definition to lock down because it's so misunderstood.
Yeah.
Samadhi, in the orthodox yogic and Vedic traditions, is not relaxation.
It's not a spa day.
It is not feeling a deep sense of peace while listening to ambient music. It is the absolute pinnacle of absorptive concentration.
Okay.
It is the physiological and psychological state where the boundary between the observer and the object being observed completely collapses.
Wait, collapses, like entirely.
Entirely. The default mode network of the brain, the part that constantly chatters and tells you who you are and what you need to worry about.
The part that reminds me to pay my car insurance?
Yes. That part just goes entirely offline. It shuts down completely. There is no "you're experiencing the universe." There is only the universe experiencing itself.
That sounds terrifying and amazing.
In the traditional monastic models, attaining even a fleeting second of true samadhi is viewed as the ultimate retirement package of a monk's life.
The gold watch.
Exactly. It's the gold watch you might receive after 40 years of brutal asceticism, sweeping the temple courtyard, fasting, and sitting in silence facing a stone wall.
It's the culmination of a lifetime of aggressive ego destruction.
Yes, which is exactly why the math in this source malarial made me do a double take.
Right. If he achieved this 38 years ago, based on the timeline provided, he was 19 years old.
19.
19. I mean, when I was 19, my biggest existential crisis was figuring out how to pass freshman biology without buying the textbook or obsessing over why a specific person didn't text me back. The gap between a standard 19-year-old brain, which is still soaking in hormones and social anxiety, and the state of total absorptive enlightenment is just staggering.
It shatters the orthodox timetable.
Completely.
Hitting that neurological and spiritual milestone as a teenager suggests a convergence of massive natural prodigy and an incredibly volatile, accelerated training regimen.
And the text is careful to note that this was not a singular, unrepeatable fluke.
Right. It wasn't just a random, spontaneous lightning strike.
Or a chemically induced state that he spent the rest of his life chasing. It was a repeatable threshold.
Which leads directly to his claims regarding Kundalini.
Yes. The source mentions he actively controls and develops his Kundalini energy on a daily basis.
Daily.
Now, for anyone whose exposure to that word is purely from a trendy fitness class, maybe doing some rapid breathing exercises in Lululemon, what are the actual mechanics of Kundalini in this advanced esoteric context?
In the deep architecture of Eastern esoteric anatomy, Kundalini is the primal evolutionary force of the human organism.
Okay.
It is highly symbolic, typically visualized as a dormant, coiled serpent resting at the very base of the spine. The foundational theory is that the vast majority of human beings live their entire lives with this energy completely asleep.
Just dormant.
Yes. We operate our biology and our consciousness on a low-voltage trickle charge. It is just enough energy to eat, sleep, engage in commerce, reproduce, and worry about the future.
So we are running the machinery on the absolute minimum required battery power.
Exactly. Just keeping the lights on.
Okay.
The entire purpose of advanced yogic technology is to intentionally wake that serpent up.
And when it wakes up?
When it awakens, it travels vertically up the central channel of the spine, sequentially piercing and flooding the body's energy centers, the chakras.
Oh.
And when that massive surge of energy finally strikes the crown of the head, it triggers the biological explosion that results in samadhi.
But throwing that switch is incredibly dangerous, isn't it?
Very.
Because I've read case studies in psychological journals about people who force this process either through intense, unguided breathwork or massive doses of psychedelics.
And they end up in the psychiatric ward.
Yeah. They call it Kundalini syndrome.
It is a very real, well-documented phenomenon. What's fascinating here is comparing his daily control of this energy to safely running high-voltage nuclear power through household wires.
Okay, break that analogy down for me.
Imagine the central nervous system of an average person is wired like a standard household extension cord rated to power a desk lamp.
Right, low capacity.
Exactly. Now, if you suddenly force high-voltage industrial-grade nuclear power through that thin wire without properly upgrading the infrastructure first, what happens?
The wire literally melts.
The circuits fry.
The physical body just cannot handle the current.
The results manifest as severe involuntary physical tremors, wild temperature fluctuations, chronic insomnia,
Jeez.
and in many cases, total psychotic breaks where the ego completely fragments because it cannot integrate the sheer volume of data and energy rushing through the system.
So it's not a toy.
Not at all. So when the man from Oz states that he controls and develops this energy daily, he is making a massive technical claim.
He's essentially saying, I manage the reactor core every single morning with my bare hands.
And I know exactly how to regulate the control rods so the facility doesn't melt down.
He's establishing himself as the master electrician of the human nervous system.
Exactly. He isn't a tourist taking pictures of the mountain. He lives in the harsh climate at the peak and commutes there safely.
Which means when he hands us this 4-level map, we have to treat it with a different level of gravity. It is a field report.
A very detailed field report.
So let's step onto the map. Level 1, the foundation. And I will fully admit, reading the description of level 1 felt like a mirror being held up to my face.
Oh, I think a lot of people will feel that way.
The text defines it as involvement in religion or spiritual practices or research and knowledge seeking.
The phrase research and knowledge seeking is the defining pillar here. It is the purely intellectual phase of the journey.
It's exactly what we are doing at this very second. You, listening to this deep dive, pulling insights from an audio stream, me reading these source documents. We are just accumulating data.
Gathering the dots.
We buy the books, we listen to the gurus on our morning commutes, we watch the sprawling documentaries, we collect spiritual concepts the way a numismatist collects rare coins.
We file them away in our brains and feel a sense of accomplishment, like we've done the work.
Exactly. But have we?
Well, it is entirely necessary as a starting point. You cannot navigate toward a destination if you lack the vocabulary to describe it or the map to locate it. You need the coordinates.
Right.
But the vital diagnostic criteria of level 1 is that the subject matter remains an external object.
Meaning,
spirituality is something you are looking at. It is on the bookshelf, it is on the screen, it is in headphones. It has not yet breached the barrier of your own physiology.
okay, I keep thinking of it as the menu phase.
The menu phase, I like that.
Imagine you walk into an incredible Michelin-starred Italian restaurant. You sit down, open the menu, and you read this lush, meticulously written description of a lasagna.
Okay.
You learn about the layers of hand-rolled pasta, the specific region in Italy where the ricotta was sourced, the slow-simmered San Marzano tomatoes.
Making me hungry.
Right. You could memorize that description. You could write a brilliant essay analyzing the cultural significance of the lasagna.
Sure.
But reading the menu does not alter your biology. You can memorize the menu and still starve to death in the booth.
Because the menu is an abstraction of the food. It is not the food.
Exactly.
And the source includes a detail in level 1 that is incredibly provocative.
Which part?
He explicitly places religion in this foundational category.
Wait, let's look closely at that, because that feels huge. Are we saying that someone who belongs to a major organized religion, someone who attends a temple or a church every single week, knows the scripture by heart, recites the prayers, and follows all the moral commandments? Are we saying that person is sitting at the absolute lowest rung of spiritual evolution? For billions of people, that is the ultimate destination.
It challenges the very core of how modern society views faith.
It really does.
But from the perspective of an advanced esoteric cartographer, external affiliation is biologically meaningless.
Biologically meaningless. Wow.
Think about it. Belonging to a group, wearing a specific symbol, or repeating a dogma does not inherently rewrite the neural pathways or awaken the dormant energy we discussed.
Right.
If the religion is treated merely as a sociological identity or an intellectual belief system, it is still just reading a menu.
You might be reading the menu in a beautifully constructed cathedral with a community of thousands.
But you are still dealing in concepts.
You know the chemical formula is H2O, but you haven't jumped in the pool. You're on dry land.
Exactly. The map demands an internal physiological shift not just a change in your reading habits or your Sunday schedule.
So the urgent question becomes, how do you actually get wet? What pushes a seeker out of the library and into the laboratory?
That's the transition to level 2.
Because it seems obvious that a massive portion of the population just gets incredibly comfortable in level 1 and never leaves. They just keep buying thicker menus.
They become professional seekers.
Professional seekers, yeah.
The transition mechanism out of that comfort zone hinges on a very deliberate word used in the source material. He states that level 2 begins when the practitioner becomes convinced.
Convinced. That implies an absolute evaporation of doubt.
Right.
Because in level 1, you are playing with hypotheticals. You're thinking, maybe this meditation stuff lowers cortisol. Maybe there's a deeper layer to reality. Maybe this ancient philosophy makes sense. It's all maybe.
And the hypothetical keeps you safe.
It does.
But conviction demands action. Whether that conviction arrives through a spontaneous flash of deep intuition, hitting an intellectual wall where books no longer satisfy you, or very commonly a severe life crisis that shatters your previous worldview.
Rock bottom.
Exactly. The shift is absolute. The evidence becomes undeniable. And that conviction forces you across the border into level 2, which the source defines as entering into specific esoteric practices, mantra, breathwork, yoga, meditation.
Notice the grammatical shift there. Level 1 was entirely about nouns, concepts, ideas, research. Level 2 is purely verbs.
Doing, practicing, breathing.
Yes. It's the shift from reading a complex textbook on kinesiology to getting down on the floor and doing a push-up until your arms literally shake.
Right.
You cannot think your way into a stronger bicep, and you cannot think your way into an expanded state of consciousness.
The word esoteric carries significant weight here, too.
Tell me more about that.
Well, in modern casual conversation, we use it to mean something quirky, obscure, or a little bit superstitious, like weird crystals.
Right.
But historically and technically, esoteric refers to knowledge and practices intended for a highly specialized, dedicated inner circle. It is a hidden technology.
A hidden technology.
It implies that the practice is not a public performance or a casual hobby. It is a targeted, precision tool designed to alter the internal machinery of the human being.
So when he lists mantra and breathwork, we have to strip away the spa day connotations.
Completely.
We aren't talking about taking 3 deep breaths to calm down before a stressful presentation at work. We are talking about using the nervous system as a laboratory.
You become the scientist, the subject, and the equipment all at once.
Right.
Take a mantra, for example. In a level 2 context, a mantra is not just a positive affirmation you say in the mirror to feel good about yourself.
It's not, I am enough.
No,
Oh.
it is a sonic technology. By continuously repeating a specific vibrational sound, you are actively occupying the language centers of the brain.
Okay.
You are forcing the default mode network, which usually loops your anxieties and memories endlessly, into a singular, rigid point of focus. It is cognitive rebellion.
Cognitive rebellion. Wow.
Or consider advanced breathwork. You are intentionally manipulating the diaphragm and the vagus nerve to manually override the autonomic nervous system. You are forcing the body into new physiological states.
And frankly, this sounds like the most miserable part of the entire ladder.
Oh, it's brutal.
Because when you first start doing this, there is 0 return on investment. You sit down in your laboratory, you start the experiment, and what happens?
Pain.
Yes. Your back aches, your knees throb, your nose itches with the intensity of 1,000 suns.
Always the nose.
Right. And your mind, which has been allowed to run wild your entire life, just violently rebels. You're trying to focus on the breath, and your brain is screaming at you about a weird comment you made at a party 7 years ago or what you need to buy at the grocery store. It is just an agonizing grind.
It is the crucible. Any process that fundamentally restructures physical and neurological architecture requires a prolonged period of intense friction with absolutely no visible reward.
No visible reward at all.
If you are learning the concert piano, you spend hundreds of hours doing mind-numbing scales before you can play a sonata. Level 2 is the scales.
Right.
It requires a tremendous, almost irrational amount of psychological discipline to trust the process. You are sitting in the dark, planting seeds in rocky soil, convincing yourself that water and time will eventually produce a garden.
And you only stay in the laboratory because of that word. Convinced. You believe the map. You trust the cartographer. So you keep waking up at 5 in the morning to sit on the cushion.
Yeah, day after day.
And then, according to the source, if you survive the grind of level 2 without quitting, the seeds finally crack open, the wiring connects, and the entire nature of reality abruptly shifts as you enter level 3.
The source labels level 3 as the phase of maturation.
Maturation, okay.
The relentless dry friction of level 2 finally generates a spark,
Mm-hmm.
and the practice matures into something profoundly different. He describes it as the onset of mystical, quote-unquote, magical experiences. The practitioner begins to perceive the multidimensional nature of existence.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the text completely shatters the mundane paradigm here.
It really does.
He doesn't just say you feel really deeply connected to the universe. He gets incredibly uncomfortably specific. He says you start noticing beings from higher frequencies.
Yeah.
Like, we have to unpack the mechanics of that.
Mm.
Are we talking about a literal shift in sensory perception, or is this a poetic metaphor for feeling good?
It's literal.
Because if it's literal, that implies the reality we experience every day is just a tiny sliver of what is actually happening in the room right now.
To understand this, we have to look at the human brain as a biological receiver.
A receiver. Okay.
The visual spectrum that human eyes can process is an incredibly narrow band of electromagnetic radiation. We cannot see ultraviolet light, but bees can.
Right.
We cannot see infrared, but certain snakes can.
Okay.
We are surrounded by radio waves, Wi-Fi signals, and cellular data passing through our bodies right now, completely undetected by our hardware.
Because we don't have the antennas for it.
Exactly. The esoteric premise of level 3 is that the rigorous physiological rewiring of level 2 has literally expanded the bandwidth of your biological receiver.
You've been listening to AM radio your entire life thinking it was the only sound in the universe.
Right.
Then you finally managed to turn the dial, and suddenly you're picking up thousands of new stations broadcasting on frequencies you never had the hardware to detect before.
You are suddenly seeing the energetic grid. You are sensing entities.
You essentially wake up inside a Marvel movie, armed with multidimensional supervision. That sounds absolutely incredible. Like, who wouldn't want to live there?
It is intensely intoxicating.
I bet.
And that exact intoxication is why almost every ancient, orthodox, esoteric tradition places massive warning signs all over level 3.
Wait, why?
They refer to it as the ultimate danger zone.
How can gaining supervision be a danger zone? You're literally seeing the multidimensional fabric of reality. That sounds like the definition of winning the spiritual lottery.
The danger lies entirely within the psychology of the practitioner's ego.
The ego.
Think about the human ego. It is desperate for validation. It wants to be unique, special, and elevated above the crowd.
It wants to feel important.
Exactly. So, if you are sitting in meditation and you suddenly begin experiencing profound visions, hearing celestial sounds or perceiving higher frequency beings, what does the ego do?
Oh, I see. It claims it.
Yes, it immediately leaps up and claims ownership of the experience. It says, look at how holy I am. Look at the magical powers I have unlocked. I am seeing the hidden world that the rest of these oblivious level 1 peasants cannot see.
Oh, wow. So the ego basically co-opts the spiritual breakthrough to make itself even stronger and more arrogant. You become a spiritual narcissist.
Precisely. You become a spiritual tourist trapped in an incredibly high-definition amusement park.
A tourist. Right.
You have upgraded the product you are consuming, but you are fundamentally still a consumer. In level 1, you consumed books and podcasts. In level 3, you are consuming mystical special effects and multidimensional fireworks. But the core architecture of your consciousness remains completely dualistic.
Because there is still a subject and an object. There's still a me sitting in the theater chair, eating popcorn, and watching the angel on the movie screen.
Yes. As long as there is an eye witnessing an event, the illusion of separation remains intact. The lights and the visions are merely roadside attractions on the way to the summit.
They aren't the destination.
No. If you build your house on level 3 because the view is spectacular, you have failed to reach the ultimate destination. To climb higher, you must do the hardest thing imaginable.
Which is?
You must turn your back on the magic ship.
You have to walk out of the multidimensional theater and step into the absolute unknown.
Exactly.
Which brings us to the terrifying final frontier of the map. Level 4.
The void.
The text describes this as the maturation of those mystical experiences into the samadhi or nirvana state. But then it pushes even deeper, defining it as going beyond into the non-dual.
And this is precisely the longitude and latitude on the map where human language suffers a catastrophic failure.
Language just breaks down.
It has to. Language is intrinsically a tool of duality. It requires a subject, a verb, and an object. It requires a separation between the speaker and the thing being spoken about.
Right.
How do you use a dualistic tool to describe a non-dual state?
Mhm.
You cannot. Therefore,
Mm.
the man from Oz is forced to describe level 4 entirely through a list of aggressive negations. He has to define it by what it destroys.
The no list, he writes. No I, no mind, no experience. And then he caps it off with this monolithic phrase, non-experience total.
Non-experience total.
I have to push back heavily on this because to the modern, ambitious Western mind, that does not sound like a spiritual victory. It sounds like psychological death.
It does.
We spend every ounce of our energy curating our experiences. We want the best culinary experience, the ultimate travel experience, the deepest romantic experience. The I is the protagonist of the movie.
Right.
If you eradicate the mind, the I, and all experience, what is left? Are you just a vegetative lump of flesh sitting on a cushion?
The fear you are expressing is the natural biological defense mechanism of the ego facing its own obsolescence.
It's fighting for its life.
Yes. The small self perceives its absence as a dark, terrifying void. It imagines non-existence as being locked in a sensory deprivation tank forever.
Exactly what I was picturing.
But the cartographers who map level 4 emphatically insist that it is not a state of deprivation. It is a state of absolute unencumbered totality.
Totality. Okay, how does that work?
Let's employ a technological analogy to bridge the gap. Imagine your consciousness as a highly advanced computer.
Okay.
For your entire life, you have been operating with 1,000 programs running simultaneously in the background. You have the mortgage anxiety program draining battery.
Yep.
You have the childhood trauma program eating up RAM. You have the level 2 discipline program forcing the processor to work harder. And you have the level 3 mystical visions program rendering massive graphic files.
The machine is completely overloaded, the fan is screaming, the system is overheating, and it takes 10 seconds just to open a new tab.
Exactly. The processor is suffocating under the weight of the software.
Right.
Level 4 is not taking a hammer and smashing the computer to pieces. Level 4 is the ultimate total reboot. It is a complete wiping of the RAM. It is closing every single exhausting simulation of the separate selves. In that instant of reboot, there are no programs running. There is no experience because the software required to catalog an experience is offline.
Wow.
It is the absolute collapse of the illusion of separation. You are no longer a subject watching the universe. The boundary dissolves entirely.
Because you are the universe.
Yes.
But because the recording software is offline, there's no I left to come out of the state and say, wow, that felt amazing.
Right. There's no one left to take a selfie.
It's the permanent drop on a roller coaster. You know that split second at the very peak of the track where gravity releases you, your stomach floats, and for a microsecond, you're completely untethered from the world.
Yes, that exact feeling.
It's that exact weightless drop, but stabilized and permanent.
The friction of existence is vaporized.
But this brings us to the most critical pivot point in the entire source material. If level 4 is this total erasure of the mind and the individual identity, does the journey end there?
That's the million-dollar question.
Does the practitioner just sit frozen in the void forever? Because the stereotype we all carry is the guru who checks out of reality. The guy on the mountain who is completely useless to society. He doesn't pay taxes, he doesn't build bridges, he doesn't help the sick, he is just blissed out in the void.
The checking out model is a severe misunderstanding of the complete cycle of development. And this is where the man from Oz demonstrates the true architecture of mastery. He does not end the map at the void. Immediately after describing the ineffable non-experience total of level 4, the text executes an incredibly jarring transition. He pivots directly from describing the ultimate collapse of the self to offering what is essentially spiritual customer service.
It genuinely gave me whiplash reading it. One sentence is a dense philosophical treatise on the erasure of the mind, and the very next sentence is a practical pitch. If you have any stubborn suffering with any illness.
Stubborn suffering. He is directly targeting the specific physical and psychological ailments where modern material medical science has hit a wall.
Well, the people who have tried everything.
Yes. He is addressing the people who have seen the specialists, taken the pharmaceuticals, and are still trapped in chronic pain. And he offers them a free consultation for energy healing.
Which perfectly loops back to his economic model of teaching for free.
It does.
But the philosophical implication here is massive. The act of offering this healing proves that touching the void in level 4 doesn't destroy your ability to function in the material world. It actually creates the ultimate return.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the return is the defining characteristic of what the Buddhist tradition calls the bodhisattva.
The bodhisattva.
The bodhisattva is the being who achieves the ultimate liberation of level 4, who completely sees through the illusion of the maze, but who willfully chooses to step back down into the muddy, chaotic world of form.
Specifically to help others.
Exactly, to alleviate the suffering of those still trapped inside. When you return from the void, you have to put your clothes back on, so to speak.
You need an interface.
You have to reassemble a functional personality so that you can talk to people, pay bills, and offer healing. But it is an entirely upgraded operating system.
You're wearing the clothes, but you are fully aware that you are not the clothes.
Precisely.
Let's use a special analogy here. Think of level 1 and level 2 as being trapped inside a massive, sprawling hedge maze.
Okay.
Your vision is entirely blocked by the walls. You're desperately guessing which way to turn. You hit dead ends, you get frustrated, you panic.
Standard human experience.
Right. Level 4 is the drone shot. You suddenly rocket hundreds of feet into the air. You look down and you see the entire maze in a single omniscient glance. You see the entrance, the exit, and every single path.
The mystery of the maze is instantly dissolved.
But the return means you don't stay hovering in the drone. You land back on the dirt path inside the maze, but you are fundamentally changed.
Yes.
You still have to walk, but you're no longer guessing. You hold the perfect map in your head. You move with absolute efficiency and grace. And more importantly, you can now grab the hands of the people who are panicking and guide them out safely. You are dealing with level 1 problems, but you are utilizing level 4 processing power.
You have removed the internal friction.
The friction, right?
The vast majority of human energy is wasted on psychological defense mechanisms, anxiety about the future, and protecting a fragile ego.
It's exhausting.
When that friction is removed, your capacity to operate in the world, to focus, to heal, to analyze, expands exponentially. And the Man from Oz provides a spectacularly specific modern example of this capacity in action.
This is hands down the most fascinating detail in the entire document.
It's brilliant.
He takes this lofty, incomprehensible cosmic power and he applies it to the most mundane modern problem imaginable. He offers a 10-minute fix for anxiety, and he prices it at exactly $5.
The specificity of that price point is an absolute masterclass in bridging the multidimensional with the material.
$5.
$5 is the universal currency of minor modern comforts. It is the exact price of a morning latte.
Right?
He is looking at a society crippled by low-grade chronic anxiety, constantly buying small, sugary dopamine hits just to survive the workday, and he is offering a permanent structural repair for the exact same price.
But the delivery mechanism is what validates his entire resume.
Yes.
He doesn't email you a $5 PDF of breathing exercises. He doesn't send you a private link to an unlisted YouTube video. The text claims he delivers this anxiety fix telepathically anywhere on the globe in 10 minutes.
This is the ultimate synthesis of the entire map.
So what does this all mean?
It means he is operating from the multidimensional sensory capacity of level 3 and the frictionless power of level 4, and he is aiming it squarely at a level 1 problem.
Wow.
If his claims of controlling Kundalini and perceiving higher frequencies are true, then the physical geography of the globe is completely irrelevant to his consciousness.
Because space isn't an obstacle anymore.
Telepathy is no longer a magical party trick. It is just standard broadband communication. It is a tool in his belt.
It is an incredible paradox. You have the profound, ineffable void on one side and a $5 Venmo transaction for a telepathic brain zap on the other.
It really forces us to completely reevaluate our cultural fear of losing the ego.
It does. Because in the West, we cling to our ego because we think it is the source of our ambition.
We do.
We think if I lose my ego, I will lose my drive to succeed, my ability to provide for my family, my edge in the marketplace.
We equate the ego with the engine. We assume that without it, the car stops moving entirely.
But this entire framework argues the exact opposite. It argues that the ego is not the engine. The ego is the parking brake.
The parking brake, that's good.
You've been driving your entire life with the emergency brake pulled up, wondering why it's so exhausting to move forward. Level 4 releases the brake.
Yes.
When you return from the void, you don't lose your ambition or your ability to function. You become a highly tuned, hyper-efficient vehicle. You can be a better parent, a more focused worker, a brilliant artist, or a global healer, precisely because you are no longer burning fuel, fighting your own internal shadows.
Which brings up a profoundly interesting philosophical accounting question regarding that $5 transaction.
No.
If the practitioner has truly stabilized in level 4, and the I has been entirely eradicated, who exactly is managing the commerce?
Right. Does the non-dual void have a business checking account? who hits transfer to bank on the app.
It highlights the dual nature of the return. The bodhisattva must maintain a functional, pragmatic ego to interface with the marketplace.
They still have to live in the world.
Right. A website must be built, a price must be set, so the service is perceived as accessible, and the server hosting fees must be paid. There is a functional self executing those tasks. But internally, the psychological identification with that self is zero. He wears the costume of the healer, the teacher, the merchant, but he knows with absolute, unwavering certainty that he is not the costume.
He is engaging in the ultimate worldly transaction from a place of total internal emptiness. It's the final beautiful paradox of this entire map. You have to willingly become nobody in order to become somebody who actually has the power to help the world.
It is a flawless ecosystem of development. The map provides unparalleled orientation. And for you, the listener, navigating your own path, the value of this map is not to use it as an instrument of self-judgment.
Right. It's not a leaderboard. You don't get a gold medal for speed running past the menu phase.
Exactly.
You shouldn't look at this and think, I'm only on level 1. I just listened to deep dives. My spiritual life is a failure.
The map is a diagnostic tool to prevent unnecessary suffering. If you are frustrated because you have read 50 books on mindfulness, but your baseline anxiety hasn't changed a single degree, the map explains why.
Because you're trying to solve a level 2 physiological problem using level 1 intellectual tools.
Yes, you cannot read your way to a rewired nervous system. You have to enter the laboratory and endure the friction.
And conversely, if you are deep into a meditation practice and you suddenly start seeing brilliant geometric lights and feeling massive surges of energy, and your ego starts telling you that you're the next great prophet, the map is there to tap on the glass and say, those are lovely special effects, but you are just in the level 3 danger zone. Keep moving. Do not pitch your tent in the amusement park.
The map keeps you moving forward when you are stuck, and it keeps you grounded when you become inflated. But above all else, it serves as a stark reminder that the true measure of spiritual advancement is never how far away you can float from reality.
It's the quality of the return.
The ultimate measure is the quality, the compassion, and the power of your return.
So, as we close the book on the man from Oz and his 4-level ladder, I want to pose a question directly to you, the listener. Take an honest look at your own coordinates today.
Where are you?
Where are you currently stationed? Are you comfortably analyzing the menu in the level 1 library? Are you sweating through the invisible, thankless grind of the level 2 laboratory?
Or are you eating popcorn and watching the multidimensional fireworks of level 3?
Or have you tasted that void? And if so, what kind of upgraded processor did you bring back with you to help the rest of us navigate the maze?
And if I may leave you with one final, deeply provocative thread to pull on as you go about your week.
Please do.
If the pinnacle of human development level 4 demands the total erasure of the I and the mind, and the practitioner returns from that void to flawlessly navigate the mundane world, buying coffee, writing emails, healing anxiety, who is actually living that life?
Wow.
Think about the moments in your own life when you achieve a pure flow state, when you are running or painting or deep into complex work, and you completely lose yourself in the action.
Time just vanishes.
The action happens perfectly, but the you who worries and plans is completely absent. The next time you slip into that state, ask yourself, when the I vanishes, what exactly is left holding the steering wheel?
That is going to keep me staring at the ceiling tonight. I might genuinely need to find $5 and request a telepathic reset just to process that. Wherever you are on your ladder, keep climbing, and remember that the view from the top is entirely pointless unless you bring the map back down to share. We will see you on the next deep dive.